Mr. Boland?
Thanks, Your Worship. I'll make the recommendation. I don't know off the top of my heart.
It's when we switch these things.
That it be recommended to council that staff provide council with the regional fire plan and that an emergency committee meeting be scheduled and that the information be considered in the comprehensive development plan and further that administration report number 0008/21 fire department review and strategic plan be received for information.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Questions, comments? Councillor Lequer, did you have a question? No? Okay. In favor? Opposed? Carried. We have the minutes of the June 28th, 2021 regular council.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any errors or omissions? In favor? Opposed? Carried. And the June 28th public meeting minutes.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any errors or omissions? In favor? Opposed? Carried. No business arising. We have presentations and delegations, so we are a little bit early, but I think everyone's here. So I have the North Peace Cultural Society, Connie Serreras, Chair, Nelson Stowe, the Vice Chair, and then we have Margaret Cavers-May, Secretary, and Baptiste Mercer, Executive Director. We have 2 seats behind, so come on up and Margaret, are you?
I won't be speaking, so
Oh, okay, all right. Is Baptiste? We put the 2 seats there for. So there's 3 letters on the agenda for the presentations. And your mics are on, so the floor is yours.
Check 1 2. Check 1 2. It's good. Hello, thank you, Mayor and Council, for seeing us today. My name is Nelson Stowe, and I'm a director on the North Peace Cultural Society, and I'm joined here by our chair of the society, Connie Serreras. We also have Treasurer Margaret May, and we have Kevin who's here as one of our directors, and we also have Heather as one of our directors as well here today. We are here today to address the decision by Mayor and Council to end the cultural services agreement with the North Peace Cultural Society. What I thought was start off really quickly with, as you know, we don't want to be here. We shouldn't need to be here. But it is the circumstance in the past several months has meant that we had to be here in front of you. In the media, there has been a lot of things being said about the society, a lot of things written, and what I'd like to do right out of the gate is express to the public that the Cultural Society Board is welcome to any questions, anytime, anywhere, to meet with you to discuss anything that's been publicized in the media. All the accusations about the society and about the activities in our organization, I think we have a right to defend ourselves with those accusations. We feel that the society has been treated unfairly and unjust in those media public statements. To put to rest a few, there's so many, but we will like to just address a couple of really interesting ones. Yes?
We've got the 3 letters.
So we can't speak to this?
The presentation was to be provided to our staff, and it was 3 letters.
Okay. So let's go to the letters then. We'll go to specifically one letter. With regards to a letter by the mayor to Rosemary Landry, President, Fort St. John Community Arts Council.
Nelson?
Yes, that's one of the letters, isn't it? Wasn't that one of the letters presented?
So we asked you for what your presentation was going to be on.
Yes.
It was the June 11th letter written by the CAO to Mrs. Serreras about the service agreement, the response on June 18th, and then the response to that on June 22nd.
Just this letter here. So the letter that our mayor has supplied to
That's to the
Fort
Arts
St. John
Council.
Arts Council cannot be commented on. Interesting. Okay. So with regards to the letter from Our CAO, to Connie Serreras, the President of the Cultural Society, I'd like to bring up a few points. One is that that throws me a bit, you know that? Because most of the things that were said that we want to address are said by your worship in public. And I believe there should be an opportunity for us to address those things. So I guess we'll deal with that at another time.
Yeah, and the thing is, we have a room full of people have questions about some of this stuff too. So I think that, that may be what your normal process is, but considering that we were never given an opportunity to present even as a in-camera meeting based on your decision when we asked for that, I think you have to afford us some latitude around being able to discuss some of this stuff, because it's a little easy to just suddenly say, oh, well, that's not what you presented.
So those were the policies and my understanding.
Well, if we're going to talk about policies and procedures, I have a few points to bring up about that. And that does go to your letters.
Okay, then let's discuss those.
Okay. Well, maybe what I'll do very briefly then, first of all.
Start with the history.
Sure.
Let's get it.
So what I wanted to do briefly is just to explain to the public about the North Peace Cultural Society. The North Peace Cultural Society was formed in 1987. Their objective was to help support the building of the Arts and Culture Center, which houses the library as well. The society was put together through the fundraising and the planning body. It was an amazing effort. Over a 5-year period, they raised collectively, with grants and everything else, raised $4.6 million to build that building. The Peace River Regional District donated the land, and the building was opened in 1992. That was an effort by volunteers, the public, the community. That's who built that. There was resistance really up to that point from all political bodies to build that facility. It was built by the sweat equity of the arts and culture and community in this community. So, along the way, of course, since that time in 1992, the library has been a tenant of the building and have left leases in place for that 30 years. Around 1999, the City of Fort St. John bought the building for $1. The city would be better prepared to address major capital expenditures and upgrades as required. In 2014, the North Peace Cultural Society was in trouble financially and performance was deteriorating. There's no question. Anyone who was around at the time experienced that. There was some bad management in the place and it wasn't well taken care of. But the real interesting part is on December 17th, 2014, 85 passionate volunteers, primarily from the arts community, attended the North Peace Cultural Society AGM and formed a new board to initiate a recovery for the Society and the Center. Through countless volunteer hours, the Society was able to reset and enter into a 2-year cultural service agreement with the city to right the ship, as a previous staff from this city has said. In 2017, that agreement was extended to November 2020 due to the fact that they've met all the requirements of that agreement. They were financially, fiducially responsible. They basically took it from $100,000 in the hole to about $150,000 in a positive, and it was a remarkable turnaround. And that was because of the arts and culture community, the Arts Council, all the members, and the board. It was an amazing effort. I don't know if it's well recognized, but it was an amazing effort. So to that, it brought us to in 2017, the agreement was extended for 3 more years. And obviously, we're meeting all the goals and all the objectives of the agreement. I'm just going to tear to another piece, my apologies. So the North Peace Cultural Society, in the agreement, there is conditions and terms, and what basically happens is the management meets with the city every 3 months and provides the city with financials, KPIs, and how the society is doing. It's also an opportunity for the city to express any concerns or any issues that they're having and to make sure everyone's on track. The goal of that mechanism is to make sure it never happens again what happened in 2015, to make sure that everything is going in the right direction, all stakeholders are getting their needs met. Semi-annually, the executive of the city would meet with the chair and vice chair of the society and further discuss those interactions and those meetings. If there's any further need to be discussed, they would be brought at those meetings. This went on for 5 years. without any particular issues. Some small things come up here and there, but that was the intent of those meetings. The intent was to make sure that this society continues to deliver high-quality product to the community and make sure we're doing it with taxpayers' money in mind. Over the past 5.5 years, what that building has delivered to this community on the shoestring budget is remarkable. It's amazing. And that should be applauded in the community. It's a success story. So as you can imagine, at the end of November 2020, last year was a tough year for everyone. We all know that. It was an unprecedented year for everyone. The agreement was not discussed in earlier parts. So basically, when an agreement like this, you're going to start talking about it 3, 4, 5 months before the end of it. There was no discussion due to changes at the city and also COVID. So at the end of November, the agreement came to an expired. So in December, communication from the city staff to Connie and the board was there's a draft agreement sent, a 5-year term, 5 years. Pretty much there's a few adjustments in there. Connie went through it, the board went through it, a few adjustments were made, nothing serious, some clerical errors, and was sent back for that correction. Communication between Connie and staff was, this looks good. Let's get together to formalize this and put this to bed. That's where we were in February. Early March, we were asked to have a meeting to sit down and look at the document finally, and we were notified that the mayor and the CAO will be participating in that meeting. It's at that moment, ladies and gentlemen, that everything went sideways. The mayor and the CAO had a very different opinion of what the performance of the society was, and they had a very different opinion as to what we're going to do going forward. We were told at that point that they did not see the value in the North Peace Cultural Society in our role in maintaining that building and delivering the services. We were very confused. I was not there. Connie was there, and Margaret May was there. And basically, that's where things went right off the rails, and we were blindsided, no question about it. We were meeting the objectives of the taxpayer and of this city. We were doing our job. And I believe that there's other things at play here, but we won't go there. So I will probably pass it to you with regards to that meeting so you can touch on that. Connie, you were there.
Oh, just on that note.
Yep, please.
Because of the confusion, I've added another 5 minutes onto your delegation.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
10 minutes is gone.
10 minutes is up.
Well, okay. Anyway, going forward, Nelson has talked about what was actually the framework for the Cultural Services Agreement and, the mechanism that was in place for that agreement and ways to deal with issues. And there was even a part around issue escalation protocol, so that between the management meetings, the executive committee meetings, and then if it actually had to go so far that there would be mediation, that could happen. There was things around events of default, that if we had poor financial performance or a large turnover in our staff or a large turnover in our board, that could create a default, but that there was still a process in place that we would be notified in writing and be given 7 days to rectify or to deal with it if it took longer than that, and the nature of the default. That's all in this Cultural Services Agreement that we signed, that you signed. And I think where the shock is, and I know, Mayor, you have said, oh, it's just an agreement. Well, it's more than that. This was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to get this in place. We got involved in 2014, end of 2014, because the Cultural Center was in dire straits. And at the time, I said to your general manager of community services, I said, why doesn't the city just take it over? And he said, no, that would be a bad idea. One, it would cost an awful lot. And besides, we don't have the technical expertise. And the best people to be doing this are the people that is the North Peace Cultural Society, because you are the people that care about the arts and want to continue with it. And I'm just going to say this. I looked up one of his emails, and he said, when we started this process last July, this is dated June 2015, I was directed to complete an operational management review and governance review. I was also to provide options for council's consideration on how we should move forward with the operation and management of the cultural center. It has been a tough year with lots of change. I have said from the beginning that the best course of action is to work with the current operator of the facility, the North Peace Cultural Society Board and Management, to help right the ship. This course of action would cause the least amount of impact on the community and, in my opinion, be the best course of action for both parties. You folks have worked very hard to right the ship. This is an email to us, the North Peace Cultural Society Board. And that work has been noticed by council, city staff, and the community. So thank you, with a big exclamation mark. Having said that, we do have a few steps left in our process. And then we went forward to develop that cultural services agreement. Many of the same people that were there for that are still on the board. So what has changed that suddenly we're not adding value? And the thing is, this is about mechanisms and about policies and about procedures. And the mechanisms were in place for the CSA to monitor the health of the cultural society, to deal with issues as they arose, and work towards establishing reserve funds. And there was also a 12-month notice put in place to allow time for either party to transition, and if the initial decision was rash, allow cooler heads to prevail. The system was working from late 2015 to early 2021, and the renewal for another 3 years in September 2017, and agreement for a further 5 years at the end of 2020 confirmed the process was working for both parties. Now, this letter, the letter that your CAO had sent on June 22nd, had the city actually followed the mechanisms put in place in the CSA, the issues raised in there were either dealt with previously, or they were, if they were so concerning, they should have been dealt with under the events of default. The terms and conditions in the CSA allow both parties to be treated fairly and be given a fair opportunity to address any issues, and the NPCS was suddenly being measured by metrics not mutually agreed upon, and that's in the agreement too, that it has to be, the KPIs have to be mutually agreed upon and in writing. It's not, oh, you're not doing enough programming. Oh, why is this? There are KPIs in place, and we have been following that. By not following the process, the city is not giving the North Peace Cultural Society a fair opportunity to address the issues raised. And many of these things that were brought up in these letters are not even factual. Anyway, the other thing that I noticed, because I was looking around to see about processes, was that the city hasn't even followed its own policies, specifically the council's role in governance policy, council policy number 1302, which outlines the role of mayor and council and actions in the council city manager system. Now, you, Mayor Ackerman, actually, from reading this, which looks like you breached this policy when you inserted yourself at the March 9th meeting between the city staff with Margaret May and myself and your CAO and your Director of Community Services. And it was made clear in that meeting that the decision was already made that the city would be taking over the operations of the center because of your concern for the library. So it says here, it actually says in here that you cannot make decisions on your own and you have no individual authority to supervise or direct the city manager. It also says in here there's a council's code of conduct. Loyalty is to the city of Fort St. John as a collective, not to any advocacy or interest group. Conflict of interest must be avoided always.
Thank you. It wasn't me that made the decision. It was all of council, and it was a unanimous decision.
Well, when it was brought forward to us at that meeting, it wasn't a case of let's have a discussion, we'll sort of work this out, we're thinking of this. It was basically put to us that the city is now going to take over operations of the center.
There were no negotiations. Negotiations thrown around. There were no negotiations. I've been in business for 30 years. I've done a lot of contracts. There were no negotiations. There was a goal, and that's what you wanted.
Council, any questions?
Any questions from council? I'm shocked. I'm truly shocked.
Yeah.
You are our representatives, council.
Yeah.
Shocked.
So we appreciate your presentation, and council has a policy not to make any decisions in front of a delegation. And so if council wishes to move forward on anything, that'll be discussed later.
We can close the door if council would like to discuss it further in more detail
No.
about the accusations made against this organization.
No, we are done. Thank you very much for your presentation.
You're protected by your policies.
We'll recess for 10.